Hey guys, what's up? Chris here for BeerGeekNation.com, and today I'm finally getting around to my top 10 beers of 2014. Now that we're into the new year, I kind of sat down, thought about it, and made up the list. And a lot of these beers, the way that I did it this year, a lot of these beers are beers that I had to say to myself, would I go back to this beer? Would I like to be able to get this beer year round? Is this something that was memorable? Is this something that stood out to me? Is it a great example of the style? Does it take the style to the next level? So there's a bunch of aspects to it. There were a lot of beers that didn't make the list that were obviously could have easily made the list, but I kind of had to pick and choose because there were so many beers kind of on the same playing level that I really had to kind of get into it and figure out, all right, what are we doing here? What would I like to drink year round if I had one right in front of me? So we'll start at number 10 and work up to our number one beer of 2014. At number 10, I went with the Stone Go To IPA. For me, this is really kind of the beer that changed my mind on session beers. Up until this point for me, session beers were just kind of boring, malty, not hoppy, low ABV, watery, just not interesting to me. Then Stone made Go To IPA. It came out, I believe, during the summer. It was just super hoppy, super floral, dank, and just dry. And it was a West Coast IPA, but super sessionable. And really, they've kind of changed the landscape as far as what a session IPA now means. So that's number 10. Number 9 was the Stone Stochasticity Master of Disguise. So two Stone beers. This was the Golden Stout that you guys could check out my review for. It kind of blew my mind. I didn't know what to think. I thought it was kind of gimmicky, but then when I had it, I'm like, wow, there's a ton of coffee in it. It's got a big body. Blindfolded, you would think you were drinking a stout. It's got all those characteristics, but it's golden. It looks like, like an IPA or a triple or something like that. It's just Stone doing what they do at their best. They're just perfectionists. They know what they want to do and they just nail it. And I thought it was an awesome beer. Again, it has a lot of coffee in it, which I really, really like in my beers. And it's something that just kind of blew my mind a little bit, for better or worse. Some people hate that beer. I really like that beer. Some people really like that beer. So it made my list this year. It was number 9, and it was pretty new addition to it too. So number 8. Let me get a sip of my beverage here. Number 8 was Sierra Nevada's barrel-aged Narwhal. Let me put this out there saying Narwhal, the regular Narwhal, is probably my favorite Sierra Nevada beer. So when I heard they were making a barrel-aged version, I had to try it. I got to try a couple drafts of it, well, a couple 2-ounce samples of it at GABF this year, and I'm like, man, I got to get this beer. A viewer of Beer Geek Nation offered to send me a couple bottles, and that's how I got to try it. I got to try their case I got split up with out in Pennsylvania here, so I've got a couple bottles of it. I absolutely loved it. It took Narwhal to the next level, added that coconut, added that complexity, really kind of smoothed out. Narwhal's a pretty hoppy beer, pretty aggressive beer. That all got smoothed out. It's just super drinkable. Just it has that barrel characteristic. It's got that stout characteristic. I just absolutely loved it, and it's one you should go for, and that is my number 8 of 2014. Number 7 was Victory Hop Ranch. This one just came out, again, the middle of December, so it just barely made the list, but I had it the prior year before, and it was reviewed back in January of, beginning of 2014. I didn't review it again, but it was reviewed in 2014, but it just came out to the market again. It's awesome, awesome stuff. Victory really turning a corner with their IPAs. For the longest time, their IPAs were okay. Then they did Dirt Wolf, then they did Hop Ranch, and Hop Ranch is just a big, dank IPA. It will hold its own against some of the best IPAs in the world. It's just super dank, super citrusy. It's got a big kind of body to it, but it's super dry in the finish. It's an awesome beer, and I definitely recommend you guys check it out. So number 7 is Victory Hop Ranch. Number 6, going along with the double IPA category, we are talking about Great Lakes Chillwave Double IPA. This beer is just fantastic. It uses mostly mosaic hops. I'm not sure if it's all mosaic hops or not, but it's just a perfect representation of what that hop can bring to a beer. Super tropical, hugely tropical. I mean, it smells like, I always say my son drinks this peach mango like juice that he loves, and it smells like peach mango juice. Like the beer literally smells like that. It comes in around 8 or 9%, so it's got a big kind of backbone to it to kind of balance out those hops. And I look forward to it every year. It should be actually coming out here pretty soon. It gets released pretty early in the year, I believe January. So hopefully we'll see that very soon. But number 6 was Great Lakes Chillwave Double IPA. All right, guys, number 5, and this one was a tough one because I kind of wanted to put this one a little bit higher, but there were some ones above it that I had a tough time with this one. Number 5 was Clown Shoes Ride the Lion. This was their Scotch Ale aged in barrels. I believe it was bourbon barrels. I believe it could have been Scotch barrels. I should have looked that up beforehand. I apologize. Just check out my review for it. This thing is fantastic. I'm a big Clown Shoes fan. They do so many different beers. They do so many different barrel beers. They do just great stuff. They're always trying new stuff and they usually nail it, and this one just killed it for me. Big Scotch ale, that perfect. It had that caramel, that toffee, big maltiness, adding that barrel complexity. The barrel had its mark all over this beer. Big kind of vanilla, toastiness, oakiness, and they just work so perfectly together. Probably one of the best barrel-aged Scotch ales I've ever had, and it is one that you guys should definitely check out. It's probably, I've had a lot of good Clown Shoes beers. That's probably the best Clown Shoes beer that I've ever had, so definitely check that one out if you can still find it. Number 5 is Clown Shoes Ride the Lion. All right, guys, so number 4, going back to the West Coast, Ballast Point Grapefruit Sculpin. I'm so glad they finally bottled this. I got to try a small draft of it once. I think it was at San Diego Beer Week, I believe, that I actually got to try this, and I loved it. I'm a big Sculpin fan. I love Sculpin. Everybody loves Sculpin. It's just one of those universal, everybody loves Sculpin. It's a great beer. So how can you make Sculpin better? Well, you can add grapefruit to it. It just intensifies the beer. It brings those huge citrus flavors, all that grapefruit juice, blending with that pininess, that West Coast hoppy dryness. It's just so good. It's the perfect example of how to do fruit in a beer, if you ask me. It really just did take Sculpin to the next level, and if you haven't had it, you're doing yourself an in-service. It is an awesome beer. So number 4 was Ballast Point Grapefruit Sculpin. Number 3, this is one of those ones I kind of had a battle, like number 1, 2, and 3. Number 1, it was pretty obvious to me what I wanted to do, but 2, 3, and 4 were all kind of real close. Number 3 was Maine Beer's Lunch. Just a fantastic IPA, double IPA, whatever you want to call it. It reminds me a lot of Heady Topper, a lot. Super tropical, lots of floral notes, peach, mango, pineapple, papaya coming off this one. You know, it's not the prettiest beer. I don't believe they filter their beers, which is fine by me, but it just drinks so refreshing. And it's a bigger beer, definitely coming in. So, and you can find it, it's a little bit hard to find, but when you find it, it's usually pretty fresh. It's getting wider distribution than Heady Topper is. People compare it to Pliny, people compare it to Heady Topper. It's kind of doing its own thing, but it's in those ranks. I mean, to just put that beer up there is an accomplishment within. Maine Beer does some awesome beers, and they're really a brewery I think to watch out for in the next couple years or so. They're already doing some awesome stuff and getting some really good recognition, but I think that really people are going to start to latch onto them. They're doing some crazy stuff, and at number 3, Maine Beer Lunch is definitely one to check out. All right, guys, so number 2, we're getting there. Number 2. This was one I knew was going to be in the top of the list pretty much when I had it. Number 2 from Lagunitas, talking about their Nighttime IPA. I am not a big black IPA guy. I keep trying them. I prefer the more hoppy, less roasty IPAs, black IPAs. I know most of you guys are the opposite, but I just like the hops kind of take over with that kind of subtle roastiness. Lagunitas Nighttime IPA just absolutely nailed it. Huge hop bouquet on this one. You pop the bottle, you just smell the hops coming out of the bottle. Big, I mean, just tropical fruit juice, pineapple, peach, grapefruit, orange peel, and then you pour it out and it's like, dark as night, but you don't get that big roastiness. It's very subtle. There's a subtle kind of sweet, chocolatey kind of flavor to it that really kind of played off the citrus notes. Again, it was like eating one of those chocolate flavored or orange flavored chocolates, if you've ever had one of those. But at the same time, it was really drinkable, and it was like 8.5%, 9%, something like that. It was just awesome. It's my favorite black IPA. Up until this point, Firestone Wookie Jack has been my go-to kind of black IPA. Nighttime IPA is not year-round, but that one just blew my mind. It really, really is as good, if not better, than Wookiee Jack, to be completely honest. And it's definitely cheaper, and I can get it in my area. So number 2 was Lagunitas Nighttime IPA. All right, guys, so the number 1 beer of 2014, again, and let me preface this by saying there are so many other beers that I reviewed that I had that could have been on this list that just didn't make this list because I just didn't have enough room. So, I mean, just because it wasn't on this list doesn't mean it wasn't a great beer. But the number 1 beer was from Stone Brewing, San Diego. It was their Xocoveza, which is actually a collaboration beer that they did with Chris Banker, who won the homebrew competition. And it was kind of a Mexican-inspired stout. It had cinnamon and all these different spices in it, and it was just so different. I was a little weary when I first went into it because I'm like, wow, it's got a lot going on. Who knows if, Stone kept true to the original recipe or, what have you. But then I opened it and I had it and it was just like, whoa, just my eyes were open. My mind was blown. All this cinnamon, all this spice. It just took a great imperial stout and made it even better, adding all these spices into it that just kind of accentuated the chocolate and the coffee and the big kind of subtle roastiness in there. It's not a big roasty beer, but that coffee and that cinnamon it just works. It's one of those beers that just works on so many levels, and it's got so much complexity to it. And it's one you just, by the time you're done the bottle, you're like, whoa, where'd that beer go? And you kind of want more of it. And that, to me, says a lot. This is the one beer that I always tell people, the one beer, if somebody asks me, what's your favorite beer this year? I say, well, up until this point, it's been Stone Xocoveza, because it just kind of shifted my paradigm on stouts. I'd never had a stout quite like that, and I know there's a lot of stouts out there now that are doing that that mole take, or I forgot the name of the drink, the Mexican hot chocolate drink. There's a couple of those out there, and I'm definitely looking to try those. But this one, for me, it just was awesome stuff. If I could buy it year round, I would. If I had a case of it, I'd buy cases of it. I mean, it was just awesome stuff, and definitely deserving of the number 1 spot, in my humble opinion. But with that said, remember, folks, life's too short. Drink amazing beers. Cheers.